Imagine waking up on a perfectly ordinary morning in 2029, turning on the telly, and hearing those two words that would make half the country spit out their cornflakes and the other half absolutely lose their minds with joy. Prime Minister Farage. That's not a fever dream. That's not a dystopian novel gathering dust on a charity shop shelf. According to the polls, that is a genuine, measurable, statistically significant possibility. And today on British Reform, we're breaking down exactly how we got here, what the numbers actually say, and whether Britain's most turbulent political insurgency can actually close the deal. Let's rewind for a second. In July 2024, Labour swept into power with a landslide so enormous that Keir Starmer was practically measuring up the Downing Street curtains before the exit polls had even closed. Reform UK scraped together 5 seats. 5, and most of the political establishment had a good chuckle and assumed that would be that. A footnote. A protest vote. A pub argument that went too far. Fast forward to right now. And that 5-seat footnote is consistently the most popular party in the country. How does that happen? How do you go from being the punchline to being the front runner? Simple. You just wait for everyone else to be spectacularly awful. And Labour have been nothing short of spectacular. The latest Ipsos political monitor from April 2026 has Reform still holding a clear lead at 25%, 6 points ahead of both Labour and the Conservatives, who are tied on 19%. Ipsos, let that sink in. The party that won the largest parliamentary majority in decades is now drawing with the Tories in a two-way race for second place. That's not a dip. That's a political identity crisis. And Reform has been the primary beneficiary of every single bad headline Starmer's government has generated, and there have been plenty of headlines to go around. But here's where it gets really interesting, and honestly a little complicated, because polling in 2026 is like reading a map of a city that's being demolished and rebuilt simultaneously. At its absolute peak in September 2025, Reform hit 36% in the polls, a historic high, and one major MRP survey projected them winning 445 seats in the House of Commons, a majority unprecedented in modern British political history. 445 seats. You need a bigger cabinet table. Labour was projected to fall from nearly 400 MPs to just 73, while the Conservatives would be reduced to a humiliating 7 seats. 7. That's fewer than the number of people who've been sacked from various government departments this year. Now, hold on, because the picture has shifted since that September high. Reform has been on a steady decline from that 34% peak, dropping to their lowest vote share since the 2024 general election. The question is this a genuine correction, or just the natural breathing of polls between elections? Because here's what hasn't changed. Reform has led in every published public poll since April 2025, and the most recent major MRP polls put the party just short of an outright Commons majority. That is over a year of continuous poll leadership. Uninterrupted. Rain or shine, scandal or silence. Think about what that actually means in historical terms. It took Labour nearly 18 years to go from its first parliamentary breakthrough to winning power. Reform believed they could be on track to do it in a single parliament. A single parliament. That's not a political movement. That's a political earthquake happening in fast forward. And yet, here's the bit that'll keep Farage strategists up at night. The first-past-the-post system is a beast that doesn't care about your national vote share. Experts point out that even with Reform at 26% nationally, the electoral system makes it very hard to translate that support into enough constituency wins to form a government outright. It's the brutal maths of British democracy. You can be the most popular party in the country and still end up locked out of number 10 simply because your votes are spread too thin across too many seats. It's a bit like scoring the most goals in a season, but losing the league on goal difference. Technically impressive, ultimately maddening. But what about Farage himself? Because a party is only as strong as its captain on a stormy sea. The latest polling has Farage ahead as the most capable prime minister, with 25% picking him, compared to 19% for Starmer and just 9% for Kemi Badenoch. Now, 25% doesn't sound like a ringing endorsement, but in a fractured political landscape where nearly half the country can't bring themselves to pick anyone, being the least disliked option is apparently what passes for political charisma in 2026. Among his own voters, though, A colossal 77% back Farage as best PM, a bedrock of loyalty that Labour and the Conservatives can only dream about. And then there's the government's uncomfortable little secret. Even though the public says it would prefer a Labour government under Starmer to a Reform government under Farage when forced to choose, they are more likely to expect Reform to actually win, either a majority or the largest party in a hung parliament, than they are to expect Labour to hold on. In other words, people think Reform will win even if they'd personally prefer they didn't. That's not a poll result. That's a prophecy that people are bracing for. The road to 2029 is still long, and it's not without potholes. 4 of the 5 Reform-led local authorities have already proposed 5% council tax rises, the maximum allowed, after failing to cut costs in the way they promised. The party that campaigned on slashing waste is now raising taxes at the local level. That's the sort of irony that opponents will be photocopying and posting through letterboxes between now and the election. And there is the persistent threat of scandal, allegations, controversies, and candidate mishaps that Farage has to carefully distance himself from to keep Reform's appeal broad enough to actually win a general election. So where does that leave us? Reform is the frontrunner. The polls are consistent even if imperfect. The first-past-the-post system is the mountain that stands between Farage and number 10. And between now and 2029, there are local elections, by-elections, scandals, economic shifts, and the occasional political plot twist that nobody sees coming. Because in British politics right now, nobody sees anything coming. We are living through the most fascinating, chaotic, entertaining collapse of the old political orders since, well, probably ever. Whether you're hoping Farage walks through that famous black door or hoping he never gets within a postcode of it, one thing is absolutely certain. The next few years of British politics are going to be anything but boring. If you want to stay ahead of every twist, turn, poll, and political bombshell as we count down to the most consequential election this country has ever seen, you know what to do. Hit subscribe, stay tuned to British Reform, and let's watch this extraordinary story unfold together.